Hello everyone, it is me, Garrett. I know, I'm back, and it's the middle of the month. Okay, so really what kind of boiled down to was I felt guilty that I was behind, and I felt a little guilty as well that, the videos had not been quite as forthcoming as I'd intended, and I was behind a month, and I was also a scotch afraid that if I didn't just try and power through Road to Oz, I might not finish it. So we're back with the Road to Oz video. And also possibly happening will be an Emerald City of Oz video. For a couple of reasons. One, that would get us so that we were only 1 month behind instead of 2. Back to being 1 month behind. Because I am moving middle of next month, so there is a very good chance that I will not get a book read next month. Additionally, it would be kind of a nice little bookend because this will be me and my husband's first real place that we picked together. I moved in with him. So we may go ahead and just do it that way. So that would be a nice bookend, because this is where Oz was originally supposed to end. And then we start the new. But who knows? We'll see. We'll see what happens. But definitely we're going to talk about the Road to Oz tonight. Okay, so a couple of things right off the bat that are interesting about later printings of Road to Oz. Road to Oz was not actually printed with color plates. It wasn't until the junior adaptation in 1939 that color was first added, because they decided they would try something different and use colored paper. And as they traveled to the different places, the colors were supposed to be tenuously connected. Keyword tenuously. So all of the artwork is actually present in all the later printings of The Road to Oz. Now, because there was no color, that also meant that there was a lot more fine detailing to Neil's artwork, which is truly pretty fantastic through this entire thing, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But subsequently, because of that, the plates got used over and over again, and we don't get quite as crisp and clean a line as you get in the early printings, because the plates were down. So there's actually for being such a slight book, there's actually more to talk about than than I would have originally expected. Again, I read actually a Canadian reprint by Cop Clark, which I think the only real difference between it and the American ones is I do notice there's more browning to the pages, but that's a whole lot of stuff that I don't totally understand, so I'm not going to talk too openly about it because I'm afraid I'll be wrong, and I don't want to get yelled at. I'm not really sure I have enough viewers to get yelled at, but still, I like to be as factual as possible. So, let's dive into The Road to Oz. As I've said in the past, this one I had halfway read. I'm not exactly sure both times, because I attempted twice to read it, once in about the 4th grade, and then once in 2007, when I first decided I was going to read through all the Oz books, and I got halfway through Road to Oz, and that ended that attempt. I know I made it about halfway through. May have made it a little farther the second time. I don't quite remember. So the story starts off pretty quickly. I mean, it gets off to a brisk pace. We're introduced first to the Shaggy Man, who, and I understand that hobo is considered an offensive term now, and that transient, I believe, is the correct term, but given this time period, he's a hobo. He's just missing the stick and the little bandana with the polka-dotted bandana. That's really all he's missing. And it starts out with him asking Dorothy how to get to Butterfield. And Dorothy, being sort of a bossy 11-year-old girl, decides she's going to take him. So, right off the bat, we've got friendly hobo. We've got 11-year-old girl Dorothy. Now, Dorothy has to run into the house, of course, to get something. And Toto is barking at Shaggy Man, and Shaggy Man just scoops Toto up and puts him in his pocket and kidnaps him. Problem number one with the Shaggy Man. I've never really trusted Shaggy Man. Now, my opinion of him changed as I read the book and got to the end. But I think part of why I struggled with this book as a kid was, why did he kidnap Toto? Why is this okay? So Dorothy proceeds to try and take him to Butterfield, or to the road to Butterfield. And no sooner has she stepped foot off of her farm than trouble starts. And there's a ton of roads, because apparently Baum ran out of natural weather to take her to Oz. So this time, it's just a whole bunch of roads. And very quickly, she realizes she's lost. And there's actually a relatively hilarious exchange, where they finally first realize they're lost, and the Shaggy Man says, "Will your folks worry?" "I suppose so," answered Dorothy with a sigh. "Uncle Henry says there's always something happening to me, but I've always come home safe at last, so perhaps he'll take comfort and think I'll come home safe this time." At least they're all kind of aware. This has just become the norm for Dorothy. There's a lot more humor to this book than there was to the last one, which we'll kind of discuss as we go along. The Shaggy Man also says, well, we have nothing to fear because I have the love magnet, which is a magnet that, because he holds it, everybody immediately loves him. Modern readings, that's creepy as hell. Not gonna lie. But putting myself in the mindset of a child, while as an adult it does bother me that, yeah, Dorothy has gone off with a stranger, but again, with all the other things that have happened to her, this seems not all that terrible. I don't really like the idea that she's being manipulated. I still don't really like that he kidnaps Toto for no really good reason. But he does redeem himself throughout the story. So, and Shaggy Man also declares here that he has no interest in money. So Dorothy and Shaggy Man and Toto now set off wandering down this road, assuming eventually they're gonna get to Oz, somehow. First they encounter Button Bright, who is about 5 years old, and he's called Button Bright because his dad jokingly says that he's bright as a button, when really he's your typical 5-year-old boy. He knows nothing. He's adorable, blonde curly hair, sailor suit. Could be Shirley Temple's twin brother. And then they meet Polychrome, who is the daughter of the Rainbow. And she is this light, ethereal girl who dances and sings and is beautiful as all get out, because she's the Rainbow's daughter. And now we've got our group, and they're assembled fairly quickly. The first town that the group comes to is a village of anthropomorphic foxes. And the foxes think that Button Bright's I don't know, and don't know, and don't know are very intelligent, because foxes are very intelligent. He deserves to have the head of a fox. So the king of the foxes puts a fox head on Button Bright, which of course nobody wanted, but he thinks that's what Button Bright needs. He also asked Dorothy, because Dorothy is now famous, of course, if they get to Oz, because Ozma's birthday is coming, could she get him an invitation? Sure, why not, she says. So, Button Bright has Foxhead. Now they travel to the next city, which is the home of anthropomorphic donkeys. And they think that Shaggy Man, who is clever, and they think donkeys are clever, deserves the head of a donkey, which the whole love magnet donkey head thing seems like a very grand allusion to A Midsummer's Night's Dream. It very well may be, given Baum's theatrical history. I'm willing to go with that. It does sort of play a little like that. So, Shaggy Man gets the head of a donkey. And they leave this country, and they come across the Musicker, who is a man whose entire body is a musical instrument. He's sort of the stand-in to the Braided Man for this book. He's quite annoying. And while Dorothy does agree when the king of the donkey country asks her to try and get an invitation to Ozma's birthday, When the musicer asks, Dorothy says, "Oh, sure," but as soon as they're out of earshot, they're like, "No." The musicer's annoying as hell, to be totally honest. That chapter was obnoxious. Finally, they come to their last country before they reach Oz. The Scoodlers. Now, the Scoodlers are these people who have faces on the front and back of their heads. The Queen makes the Queen of Hearts, and sort of has a similar description too, seem like a pleasant individual. And the Scoodlers decide to turn them into soup. The Scoodlers can also take off their heads and use them as projectile weapons. And I know I said I was going to talk about Neil's art later, but I'm going to have to go ahead and show this set of images. So they get put into a soup pot, or before they get put into a soup pot, when the Scoodlers declare that's what they're going to do, the Shaggy Man goes, "But don't you love me?" And their response is, "We love you in soup," which is hilarious and terrifying all at the same time. And I really love that macabre little bit, because I have that sort of gallows humor to me. I really kind of would like to have seen Edward Gorey illustrate this section, because I think that would be fabulous. So anyway, they escape by leading the Scoodlers to the edge of there's a narrow bridge that connects the mainland to their land over a deep chasm. And the Shaggy Man proceeds to throw all their heads down the chasm. There you go. Including the head of the Queen. And, there's their Queen. Isn't she a thoroughly pleasant-looking individual? So after they meet the Scoodlers, they come to the Deadly Desert, and the Shaggy Man calls on his friend Johnny Dewett, who is a handyman who can do things spectacularly quickly, and he builds them a boat that will carry them across the Deadly Desert. They reach the other side, they're safely in Oz, and they just happen to be at the Truth Pond, which is the place that they have been told they can restore everybody's head to the way it needs to be. So Button Bright gets his head back, the Shaggy Man gets his head back, they encounter Tick-Tock and Billina, they head to Emerald City, they stop off, because they're in the land of the Winkies, they stop off and pick up the Tin Woodman, they go visit Jack at Pumpkinhead and his new farm, which is, again, delightfully macabre. He lives inside a giant hollowed-out pumpkin, and he has a graveyard for all of his former heads. And when his heads are going to expire, he goes and Ozma makes him a new head. So, they arrive in Emerald City. Shaggy Man is given brand new clothing that's also tattered, but very finely made tattered. He decides to surrender the love magnet to Ozma. Ozma decides that she will, instead of using it for her own gain, she will put it over the gates of Emerald City so that everyone who enters and exits will feel love. The guests arrive. The guests are varying characters from other Baum books, like John Doe and the Cherub, Queen Zixie of Ix, Dot and Tot of Maryland, and there may have been one other in there. Santa Claus. Santa Claus comes, because why not? Of course Santa Claus comes. He wrote Life and Adventures of Santa Claus. So there's Santa. Yay! There's a big birthday party. The wizard sends them all home in soap bubbles, and Ozma sends Dorothy home. Now, upon Dorothy's arrival, though, that's the basic gist of the book, Ozma admits that she actually planned all of this to amuse herself, essentially. She got Dorothy lost and made sure she was on the right path, and she said, I really wasn't too worried about you. I thought about helping you out with the Scoodlers, but the Shaggy Man figured that one out. Thought about helping you with the Deadly Desert too, but Shaggy Man also figured that out. So I just let you get here on your own. Ozma's a very mercurial person. Oh. And the absolutely fabulous Caroline Spector, in a panel a couple of years ago at the Winky convention, made that very big point that Ozma serves the purpose of the story. So her character is ever changing, where Dorothy and Glinda are more constants. You know this is how they're going to behave, and this is what they're going to do. Ozma seems to be a creature of plot. So if the plot needs her to be stalwart and steady, she's stalwart and steady. If it needs her to be a little wishy-washy, she's a little wishy-washy. If she's bizarrely vindictive towards Dorothy for no apparent reason by not using the magic mirror to save her 2 books in a row, then so be it. Ozma does not have a set persona. And I find that very interesting. It can be kind of frustrating at times, because you want her to react the same way. But at other times, it is vaguely delightful, because then you don't know what to expect. So that's one of the key things there. Road to Oz introduces... Well, first off, it was the next book in the 3-book contract. It was the middle book. I'm inclined to wonder if Baum possibly got some pushback on Dorothy and the Wizard being so dark and everything out to kill them, because right from the beginning, they're pretty much safe because of the love magnet. Nothing bad really happens. They almost get turned into soup, but the foes are easily beaten, unlike the gargoyles that you can't escape from, and the invisible bears that you can barely escape from, and the crazy vegetable people that you can barely escape from. So you get almost a parallel story. You get country, final, random guy on the way to other countries, final obstacle, big party in Oz. Dorothy goes back home. They're basically the same plot. The big difference is, in Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, everything is out to kill them. In Road to Oz, not everything is out to kill them. I would happily take the Braided Man over the Musicker any day. I think Dorothy would want to take the Braided Man over the Musicker any day. And the Braided Man actually does make an appearance in this book. Which leads me to this latter half of the book was clearly as one person did mention in my Facebook feed when I was talking about it, I think it was Joe, mentioned that this is kind of the first time of a shared universe. And he's right. You know, this is really the first shared universe, which is so big right now with Marvel and Disney and Star Wars and all the things that are sharing their universes. This is kind of the first time that happens. So that in and of itself is kind of a fun little, hey, look at you go, Baum. You created robots and shared universes. Science fiction as we know it today. So you get that. This is definitely an advertisement of, oh, well, who is this John Doe and the Cherub? Oh, this is interesting. Wait, there's a book called John Doe and the Cherub? It's also written by L. Frank Baum? I like the Oz books. Let's read John Doe and the Cherub. I don't know why I'm so obsessed with that title. And there you go. Baum was nothing if not someone willing to market things. So this book is part antithesis, Dorothy and Wizard and Oz, part advertisement. Not a lot happens. Quite literally, halfway through the book, they get to Oz, and no plot really happens. It's just party. Preparation for party. Soap bubbles. Dorothy wakes up in bed. That's it. Road to Oz introduces several characters that come back a lot. Shaggy Man features very heavily in later books and even has his own book. Polychrome comes back many times. She's actually one of my favorite characters. Button Bright comes back. This is also the first book that brought back Toto. However, interestingly, there's a couple of interesting things with Toto. First of which is he never talks. Bellina talks. Jim talked. Eureka the Cat talked. Toto doesn't talk. There's no attempt for Toto to talk. Toto, in fact, won't talk until Scarecrow of Oz. So we've still got 3 more books to get to until Toto's gonna start talking. The other interesting thing is Neil, who very frequently flew in the face of what Baum wrote. I can only imagine them as sort of a Felix and Oscar odd couple style grouping. Neil decides Toto's a Boston Terrier, very much like his own Boston Terrier, Dingleberry. However, there is a charming little moment where Dorothy and Toto, when they arrive at Tin Woodman's castle, which is all made of tin and is brand new, he has statues made of Dorothy and the friends from their first visit, which Neil has delightfully drawn for us. Dorothy and Toto meeting their former counterparts. And he does a pretty good job of aping Denslow here. But it's very obvious two different Totos, and Toto is clearly laughing at how they looked. What was this, 8 years prior? This is 1908, I think. (1909), so 9 years ago, that's how they looked. My, things have changed in 9 years. Neil's work is some of his best work, but as you can see in some of the full plates, it gets kind of muddy through here. It's still beautiful, and this is polychrome, and she's stunning, and she's all pretty. But it's very murky. It's not as clear as they had been in earlier printings. But you get lots and lots of just beautiful, beautiful artwork. The return of polychrome, and again, this is another one that you lose a lot, but polychrome's return to the rainbow. You get smaller line drawings here where they're traveling towards the Emerald City. This is the first time we really, really get to see the smiley teeth houses of Neil's Oz. Neil really liked to do full-page drawings of polychrome. So you get some truly beautiful artwork through this book. I enjoyed this a great deal more than I expected to. In terms of sequel rating, Ozma of Oz currently is my favorite. I would tie it and Dorothy Wizard as second place, with Land of Oz being third place, because I really did not enjoy that. I did not enjoy that at all. My good friend Sarah made the comment one time that she felt like you really would have a better book if you took the Dorothy and the Wizard and Road to Oz and put them together into one book. And take Dorothy and the Wizard, and then and maybe Eureka the Cat, and then take Button Bright, Shaggy Man, Polychrome. Put them together, take one of the Fox, maybe the Fox story head, take the Braided Man from Dot Wiz, kind of meld them together, and you would probably have the same basic book. I mean, there really is not much difference. It just seems like this one is the happy one. And one of the other things that's really nice in this book that you get is you get a very strong sense of Oz. This is where really the Oz everybody knows and thinks of. This is where it finally sort of gels into place. The Tin Man says that nobody has any need for money. They just do things to help each other. And because it's nice to help people. You really get more of the establishment that nobody will die in the Land of Oz. That it's this very peaceful, perfect place. And that's where this is really solidified. And there's just so much joy about that. And I think that really stood out to me more in this book. There's not a lot that goes on. To a degree, it's like a magical Bobbsey Twin book. At least early Bobbsey Twin, before they became mystery books. But that's another story for another time. Anyway. And it's charming. There's not a lot to it. It is very slight. I quite literally, I got through this in a week. It breezed so quickly. So hopefully, if you have not had a chance to read it yet, and hopefully I haven't spoiled it all for you and you'll still read it. But there we go. There's The Road to Oz. Proof that sometimes it just takes a time or two to get something. So I will try my best to be back at the end of this month with The Emerald City of Oz. Now, I have not figured out which edition I'm going to read. Because you see, I have two. I have this lovely one with a salmon-colored cover. It's a little thicker. I think it's probably an earlier one. I certainly paid more for this one. This one was the one that was intended to be the last book in the series. Obviously it was not. I also have this lovely pistachio-colored one that has the cover printed upside down. Apparently it has an ad for... Oh, yeah. Cover blade is upside down. Which is probably why I only had to pay $5. Or no, $10 for it. So, I've got 2 copies. I will probably go with this one simply because this is going to irritate me every time I see it. But it's neat to have for novelty effect. So there we go. Emerald City of Oz. This is a, probably, it's a 1930s copy. Well, post-35, because there's no color plates. Judging by the thickness, I'm guessing it's gonna be pre-50s, because I think they redid the typesetting in the 50s, and it became a significantly narrower book, as you can see. But I don't know that for fact. For all I know, this could actually be a 60s copy, and they just discovered they had extra plates, and then it accidentally got stuck on upside down, because sometime in the 60s they quit putting the plates on the front. But that's also another thing. Yay, book talk. So, anyways, I hope you enjoyed it. Any questions, comments, testimonials, don't be afraid to drop them down. I will try to be back at the end of this month with Emerald City. If not, don't be surprised if there's not a video in July, particularly in the last half of July. But I'll do my best to be back not long after the move. So, I hope everyone has a great little time, and I will see you all later.